I know really well, and some of you I haven't met, and some I've seen in workshops. So I just want to ask you, we've had a great introduction down there, and we're going to delve in further, but I'd love to know who kind of knows what and who's doing what. So how many are really elementary, K-4, K-5, maybe K-6? Okay, and then we have middle school, general? Okay, 2. Good, because this is going to go over all of it. So, hi, come on in. Come on in. So, good. How many people have really looked into the new standards? Great. Okay, so some, but and others they're still kind of. So good. All right. Well, we're gonna go through. We work together, as it says. Matt Knippel, if you already maybe have met him at some of our RIMIA things, and Nicole next door. Matt's ill today, so Nicole's absorbed his people since she's doing ensemble, mostly middle and high school, so the technology's there also. But we really put together the beginning, so we'd all say the same thing. So this is what you've been held accountable for as far as in Rhode Island. The GSEs are what we had to do, or at least at the state level, this is what we're based on. So there were 4, although they had some different names than they will now. And then as music educators, this is what we loved, our 9 standards that we had memorized, and we could just tell you what we're doing. They're on our walls, right? And they're not bad. But really, they were mostly skills and knowledge, which we have to do in order to do music, to make music. But with the core coming out and talking more about those higher skills, we have, I think Matt added some special things here. So, yeah, so our new standards really have more of the push that you heard from Scott, that we want these students to be independent musicians, right? They don't have to always just do what you've taught them. We want them to think on their own. And I know, having just started at middle school this year, we're really talking about learner qualities in addition to those standards and what they're achieving, but what kind of a learner are they? Are they thinking on their own? Are they doing extra research? Are they applying connections from other things? That's where exciting and much more learning happens. So that's kind of, I think, the gist of this versus the old 1994, that we're going beyond that. There's our 3 processes, and then our connecting between all of them, which Scott already said. This is Matt's ingenious. I'll share what I brought, my visual, but Matt said, you know, it's really like a building, and we have floors and we have rooms on each floor, which I think is really clear. So he went ahead and added this in. So here was the building we had before, the GSE building, with those 4 floors. But now we've gone to our new 4 floors, which aren't that much different, right? But they have added in, here's your creating, performing, I like that CPR that Scott mentioned, creating, performing, responding, that we're all doing in all areas, whether you're in general or you do have a chorus class, or we're still doing a lot of the same across. And then the connecting really should be a part of, as it's appropriate, through the 3 processes. So I love his visual. I thought they're so clear. Easy to understand if you haven't delved into it yet. All right, so right off the, one of the, if you go to the website for the national standards, the new core art standards, they have this kind of format. So creating, we're gonna really look in depth now. All right, conceiving, developing new artistic ideas. This is the anchor, right? And I know if you have course, you might not be doing as much of this, but in our general music, we should be doing our creating. So we're going into the first floor. Here's our creating floor. We have to imagine what we're going to do. How do musicians generate those ideas? I'm enjoying looking at these questions. I have not done much work with essential questions as a district, but I know someone in this room, 2 people in this room, that have been talking to me about it for a couple of years, and maybe our next workshop day, we may have them share the work that they've been doing for a while on that. But I think this really is exciting for kids when it's the why are we doing this? Because this is actually what we want to be thinking about. Then they make their plan. Well, I want to write about this, but how are we going to do that? Will we do it with recorders? Will we just sing? Will we have xylophones accompany? All of those kinds of questions, right? Evaluate and refine, which is a lot of our work when we're learning a song and we're trying to get it ready to share or get it well enough that we can play it with the accompaniment or with the added recorder part. How do we improve it? And then present is the last room on the floor. When is it ready to share? Is it ready to just share with the other group? Or is it ready to share for our teacher? Or what do we have to do to get it ready to share with the grade level in a month? Floor 2 would be our performing, which is a biggie for music, as Scott was saying, although the others come into it. There's our anchor, analyze, interpret, and select. We also have the developing and refining, and how are we going to convey the meaning that's in this piece. They took out the other arts part just so you could see a little clearer the music. All right, here we are, second floor, or whichever floor you want to number it. How do we select that music? Which you are guiding, but they can have some input to. Which one should we do for the sharing in the gym in March? You know, which one is our best one, and why should we pick it for the Martin Luther King Day? What does it have to do with that? Is our analyze and interpret. I love how the rooms are like almost the same. I like that it's the same across. It's so much easier to understand.
Are we going to be able to go access this information online? Because
Yes.
I like this analogy.
Yes. And we're giving you almost the same, but a reinterpreted visual, which I'll show you, and I'll show you where it is to take
I
home
like that vision.
for Monday. But then we're
That's
gonna try and
awesome.
put this, Wayne, where's Wayne? Can't do anything without Wayne. We're going to, yeah, I think we're going to have a connection for that. Nicole's gonna talk to that today. Yeah, and then present. So when is it ready to present? We've been working on this piece, but what else needs to be done? You know, and do we need to change anything? How are we performing it for that audience, particular audience? So, responding. We heard quite a bit this morning about that. Understanding and evaluating. How is it getting this meaning across in our art of music? And it was nice, Scott talked this morning about, as our students they have access to so many ways, devices, things that they can access, whatever they want to see. You know, how is what they're learning influencing what they're selecting to be watching and listening and playing? How does understanding the structure of it? Right, there's an interpret. Oh, and evaluate. So those are, I wrote this down because I was forgetting it. These are our process components in each room. And our connecting. Sometimes my favorite part, like the analyzing too, connecting across with the other subjects, or with other arts, or history. Right, we're synthesizing some of those things and putting it together. Oh, now this floor is a little different. There's really two main rooms. Synthesize, he didn't like that word, Scott said. How does it all come together in there and then prepare you to create or prepare you for how you're going to perform that? And how does it relate to your daily life? You know, what are your students doing in third grade that they love in science that absolutely fits with, boy, well, we just happen to pick that song, you know, or the mathematical, the fractions, right, with the rhythms. When are they learning that? And they're so excited, or they're drudging, yeah, I'm going through the fractions, but hey, this is great because you need it in here too. So there's the last floor. And so everybody in the other room too saw that same outline. We want to present that to everyone. And now we're gonna talk hopefully about what most of you are doing specifically. And this is the work I did this fall. Each of the three of us looked at that bigger document of the national standards, which has so much in those core art standards, and tried to simplify it for you. So if you haven't gotten in to read it, you need to know what this means a little bit. It is the music versus the art or dance, okay? And it is responding, it's the RE part, and then each one is numbered underneath it, and sometimes even by a letter. So under responding, the common anchor that we're just looking at for a minute is analyze. Analyze how the structure and context of the musical work will inform the response. So sometimes you're doing this beforehand, sometimes you're having students look at a brand new piece and look at that. Enduring understanding. So this goes across all our arts, right? The response is informed by analyzing from a social viewpoint, from their cultural viewpoint, historical viewpoint, or just looking at how the creators, the performers, how did they put all those elements together to make that piece of music. And this is what I've started putting up in my classroom more, thanks to maybe my colleagues that have been talking to me about it for a while. Especially now that I have some 6th graders, some 7th graders. You know, how does understanding that, why is that going to influence our response? What do we need to do differently? Maybe your 4th and 5th graders can start to say, well, you know, especially this time, it's Martin Luther King month, right? So, at Rosa Parks, you know, what were they doing then? Why should we sing this? Should we sing this, you know, in a really strong way? What kind of message is it saying to the people that were standing up against what was not, what they felt was unfair? So how does understanding that? So these questions are ones I'm starting to put up for my students to kind of think about. So on the document I did for you, which you have today in your packet, it's the same that we just looked at, each standard is listed, the anchor and the questions, but then I did a summary for you. I went through the whole thing because it's so long, and especially if you span K through 8, pre-K through 8, that's a lot. So pre-K is the basic, so everyone would explore musical contrast. So pre-K is having lots of guidance. Kindergarten has some guidance, and they can demonstrate a little bit of the concept more, such as, they gave an example right in there. I just took this right from it. But as I went on, each one I just added what was new. So in this block, you can just go right through and see how each level is added one more level of difficulty. Okay, so then they're getting this more different styles. Number 2, they can start, 2nd grade, they can start to describe a little more about how they're doing that. 3, they get a little more specific, so you're really labeling more of the elements of music. And is it affected in the context by their personal experience, or a little bit with the current event, or a holiday, or socials. Grade 4, a little more of the cultural understanding can come in. Grade 5, 6, so everything's the same, and I just put in short form there for you. So when you're looking at that, instead of having all the pages, I think it's only 8 pages now. So I tried to get it down as much as we could. So if you're teaching 6th graders, you know, they can do a little more, and my couple of middle school people, it's nice to see they're really going across several pieces or across programs. I think also maybe my 5th graders or 4th graders can be doing that, depending on your students and what they have experience with. Okay, so we're going to, when we have access, I think through the Remio website, if you do have a chorus or a beginning band, you will have, it's all set up the same way, so you can read those also, but there's a few slides on there for that. So here's what it looks like more so when you're looking at it, if you haven't, or if you do, you can see there's your music, performing, and then you've got your process components. And so here Nicole did the one for ensemble, so this is, I'll just say it so that you have it: novice, right, intermediate, proficient, and accomplished, and advanced. So they've leveled it. So if you need that, it will be there. You can look into that. The technology you also have in your, right in your packets. So let's take a look in our packet for a moment, so you know what's in there. We're kind of in the middle. So where are we gonna find this is huge, kind of break it open to the middle. Instead of the house, but you can get it then from that, you can get the house.
I like that.
But bold also for your wall is the artistic processes. This is the title of what you're doing: creating, performing, respond, connect. Okay, this is the title page. I got this idea from the Eastern Division Conference. Anybody go to the Eastern Division Conference in Providence? They had a couple people presenting on the standards, and I'd actually seen them before. I've been to meetings with them, and to see it like a third time was good. So I took her visual, which was like a sun and then planets. And so the sun was creating, and then the planets were those process components.
Dr. Nicolucci's, Sandra Nicolucci's.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I went right back to my art teacher, so I need a few colors of paper, please. And I just made that for myself. Maybe more me than the students. And I put it right up, because it was so visual as I was doing things. I'm like, hey, we're hitting that. This lesson would be great, I'm gonna add that. I needed it in front of me. And then I could also direct them, hey, today, you know what, we're working on our performing, but we're rehearsing it to fix those things. So they could start to see what we're doing. This is a little fancier. And so after the title page, you have the box with the arrows, create, right, and there's your process components around. And this one looks more musical. You can color it on whatever color paper you need. If you're a color person, I like the color. But this was great design. Nicole did most of this work, and we had a little editing input. So there they are. I wonder if they fit, actually, right, could they fit almost like puzzle pieces with their arrows before? That might look nice. So take what works for you, or make your own. But if I were you, I would get it up, get it visual, get it there, so as you're going, you're constantly seeing it, because that's how it got embedded. And then I said, oh, well, it's really only 3, and they're really in my head now. And now I can kind of say, we are creating, we are performing, we're responding. It's coming quicker in my own explanation, on my lesson plans, in my evaluation. I'm saying, yeah, I'm hitting these 2 today in depth, so that they become easy to say. After that, we put the link right in to the actual standards, which I can stick up there. The documents that follow those in your packet are the ones that we did for you. Okay, so the next document in your packet are the summary documents. I think the first one is us, pre-K through 8. So you can go right through. They are kind of large, so it's hard to see them all at once. Let's see, did I get them all? No, yeah, it's a little large, so you have to scroll over. But there's like the first. Let's go to the top. The first summary. So whatever grade you're focusing on, you can just kind of look. We're starting with variety of music. Oh, yep, we need to be adding that cultural connection. So I hope this will be a document that makes it easy for you to find or connect with the standards. It's what you're already doing, I'm sure. It may encourage you to add just a little more of the higher thinking in, if you haven't already done it, or it's giving you backup fuel for your administrator to say, look, we are doing this. We are doing the new core art standards. So that is all there for you in your packet, and I think the way they did it, it kind of goes right across the page. And then you turn the page and it goes all the way across the page. so you can see it at once all the way across. They must have spent some time in the copy room doing that because I think it works. I double checked this morning. When you click on the link, it will take you here if you haven't gone there. So it's from the NAFME site. And I was wondering, so here's this, oh good, I was wondering if it was right on there, I wanted to look. So if you have to do a composition class, or you're starting a guitar class, or your chorus or beginning band, everything's there, you can click and go. The glossary that he was mentioning is there. Wondering about the other learning ones he mentioned. But then when you click on our pre-K through 8, it's going to look like that. It's a little small to see from where, but it fits on the page then. And you can look specifically just grade 1. My summary just adds the extra words, but this is larger in each box. All right. So for me, basics. That's my outline overview, and I will be happy to answer questions, or we can give examples. Would you apply whatever? So, how do you feel? Or better?
Rhode Island adopt, please.
So I just heard from Nicole today, because there was talk about it this fall, but then it got pushed back. I believe she said Wednesday, they've already, so it may happen actually this week. How nice, right after our days.
And maybe Massachusetts will shape up. They put they were gonna do music and they did social studies instead, so we're not that close
Well,
to.
the year of the Eastern Division, I attended some of the Massachusetts meetings. The teachers working on integrating this, and what does it look like? And some of the cornerstone benchmark things, maybe we could look at that if anybody would like to.
Yeah,
look at that.
I was piloting them with, on Scott's team, and they're great. And they're not much different from our state standards, really, we're doing all of it. It's just a very complicated way to explain what we're doing. Once you can wrap your head around it, it's like, yeah, but.
And maybe looking at that house, so you really, these are the strands.
The house is
Right.
awesome.
I know, it's
Analogies for
visual.
people like me, I'm visual, so
I was
this
very,
is scary.
very,
So
yes.
look at it, think of it as a house.
Who has time to sit down and
We all
read
live in
that?
houses, right? We can think, planets were okay, but I love the house analogy. It
Whichever you are,
simplifies
good
it for
science
people like me.
person,
Yeah.
do the solar system.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And if they want
I,
to design houses.
I've been working with this quite a bit for the last couple of years, and I think when I first looked at it, I felt it was a lot different than the 9, like you said, we memorized those, we had them posted above our board. But I actually really like the way it's laid out, because it really does talk a lot more about process, and you can relate it to creative writing, and you can relate it to how a scientist would go about coming up with an idea, planning how they would, it connects through all of the curriculum. And I think that's where, the other one where it was more skills and knowledge, this is more, what's the process? And when they leave school, they need to have that in hand. They have to have an idea of the process.
Music is just as important a process as science. It's still using the same great thinking, just
Exactly.
for a different
So I love it.
subject. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, cause I do the after school smile program, and the 4 steps are the design process, the engineering design process, so that was cool.
So his word about making it more powerful, I think I agree. Early, I think it was Scott in the first presentation, that it makes it more powerful because it is the way we think, the way we go through the process for any of them.
I'm looking at this, and we have to write a new curriculum in Lincoln. We haven't had one for years. We have no guidance. There's no one telling us what to do, how we're all kind of coming from different areas. But looking at this, I'm thinking, this could almost like be a curriculum. Like, to the people who just want the paper, they could look at this and say, wow, they wrote a curriculum here. It's like what we do all the time anyway. It's kind of organized that way, would you say?
I think it just depends on the format that they want to use, but this could definitely be the basis, and then
Right.
you have to decide. I know sometimes for curriculum, they want it in a specific format, which you could copy parts.
Right.
And put them right into the format where they fit.
Right.
So it looks the same as the science one, but it's these components, these 4 strands,
how
those
much?
process.
Well, I put that on the board in there, that like, it would be helpful if this all could be an editable PDF form, so that like if something really doesn't apply to what we do, then we could eliminate it or
I
add.
have, you can copy and paste from it.
But like
I
keeping
haven't
the
tried
same
to make my
format.
own copy of it, and then it might be doable.
Yeah, if like a suggestion.
One of the
to
technology,
NAFME would be.
since people might be able
I
to.
think you can almost do that on the NAFME website, because I took just the pre-K standards and was able to make a document just from their website, just on that.
Yeah, copying what you needed for that
Yeah.
particular grade level.
I think you
And
can
making your
almost
own.
do that.
I think you can get around it. But not a bad idea, and I don't know, see what they come out with. They're giving more tools to work with. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering what people's standard amount of time at elementary for music class is, because one of the frustrations I have when I look at this wonderful document is that I have 30 minutes. So when they're coming in to look at us and evaluate what we're doing, I mean, honestly, we're really paring down what we're doing, because you're supposed to try to squeeze a meaningful lesson into 30 minutes, and that is all we get with kindergarten through 4th grade. That's it.
How many
30
people have
minutes.
30?
Once a
Does
week.
anyone else have 30?
Once a week.
Who's up to 40?
Once a week, 30 minutes, that's it.
Or 40 once a
50?
week.
With kindergarten.
I have 40.
Yeah,
40
we moved
was
we had
better.
moved to 50
40
a few
was
years
great.
ago.
30 really is.
We used to be 30, I know. Anybody have more than once a week?
Middle school.
Right, when we get to middle school, that's the nice thing, we get to see, I keep saying next week, next class. Yeah, it's a different format.
But in terms of like
what
a
I wanted-
statewide thing, I could use 40. If we could just get somebody to say, hey, you know what? Every district should give 40, because that 10 minutes was
So-
really crucial.
What he put maybe as fuel of my comment, and then let's see if anyone else has an answer for you.
You gotta just change
What
it
he
to-
mentioned was, the outline, he said it was just like 8 or 9 pages, easy to read for a basic program, right? This is what you have. Maybe you wanna start with the basic program and say, can we even do this? What is the basic? It says you should have 45 minutes. If you don't have 45 minutes, maybe you can't go as far. And maybe in your curriculum, or, something needs to be said until we have, where we expect to be able to get to here. That was something we brought up when, 1994 standards, when we were working with our curriculum. Even then, I think it says twice a week,
Yep.
right? Twice
That's,
a
I was
week
just
in
gonna
your
say,
own
there was a separate
classroom.
document, there was a separate book, and in that book, it had what the ideal program would be. And I bet you
Because
that
it's
that
based
is
on
under resources.
It does affect it. I mean, I'm sure you do a lot, but it will affect it, and maybe as a little disclaimer, everybody else is based, or these standards are based on,
Well, and it's not just the time that's affected, it's the way the kids are coming into the room now, because they are stressed. So that 30 minutes is even more, what I'm doing in that 30 minutes is really crucial just for their emotional health. I've changed
It's a
the way I
working
teach.
snack. It's a working snack, and
It's-
lunch,
there's
and
a lot
recess
more
is short,
movement.
and, I know, that was a shift a few years back. I think my daughter was 2nd grade, and I looked at the open house night and thought, when did they breathe? No, there was no more time for breathing, yeah, and she's now 8th grade, so it was about 6 years ago that I, as a parent, we hear about it in school too, I know, yes, it's a good point to bring up. Anybody have a suggestion to answer to her?
Well, I mean, if you have to deal with your time constraints, one of the things we have to be creative about is how we use that time, obviously. And I have found that with my shorter classes, you start right at attendance, and that's where you can be evaluating kids. If they're playing recorder, everybody plays a note, and that tells you that you're touching base with every kid very quickly, which is also, as we know, very important. And it's just trying to see what you can package together and still accomplish what you're hoping to do.
Learning sequence activities are awesome.
I went from 45 minutes in my last school to 40 minutes, and even that felt like a big jump, so I can't imagine what 30 is like. But I started started writing on the board, I blocked out with electrical tape, a block for each grade, and I wrote like 1 to 2 essential questions for, the lesson, and I can look at that quickly, and, you know, we go off on tangents sometimes or whatever, so I look at that and I'm like, ooh, I'm not really gonna reach that if I keep going in this direction, so it kinda like keeps my focus, and it lets them see like what we're trying to reach within the class, so.
Right. That's a big push too for them to see their objectives that they're doing.
Another thing I wanted to mention is routines, you know, establishing routines, not that every class has, obviously have to be the same, but certain components of the class, you know. Again, like recorders, the kids check in with me by playing a low C. That encompasses posture, that encompasses fingering, that encompasses embouchure. And if you can play that low C, as you know, the rest of the notes are a piece of cake, right?
Good, that was a good question, because that really, the tiredness was the thank you for your input, that, hope that helps. And maybe if you look at that and when it's a time that you're doing curriculum, or when there's a door opening for change, or scheduling, sometimes when they're doing a bigger schedule piece, maybe the 40 minutes fits in better with, I don't know, watch for those opportunities. There have been times, a superintendent that was big on brain development and brain research, that's when we got 50 minutes. And another superintendent, we were back to 40. But when opportunities, changes come up, you can use those documents to say, hey, how about if we add this in? Anybody want to look at the benchmark? Anybody familiar with? How many have looked at the benchmark things that are up there? Just a few. Let's see. So if I go, I didn't call those up before. Let's see. Where do I, but it's, where do I?
Search it.
Are they called
Oh,
cornerstones?
I can
Yeah,
see,
I
from right
put
here,
cornerstone.
yeah,
Cornerstone
thank you,
assessments.
that's the word we wanna do, okay. Yeah. Because having looked at that, yeah. Let's see, yeah, okay, good. So there's quite a bit, here, you can decide, we can share, if those of you that have used them. When I looked at this, I was K-5, so I was specifically looking at my 2 and 5, and I did responding with grade 2. But I did something with grade 3, there was no grade 3, but I liked what I saw in grade 5, and I just adapted it down. So, I don't, you know what, I'm gonna take you to that. Let's see, it was performing. And then if somebody else wants to show another one, we can, I can sort of look at it. Okay, so, yeah, they all have, they're documents. Okay, now you can take your time and read all this. Here's the common anchor, right, all the things that connect right from there, because this is one of my favorite pages. So, here's what you're gonna do, because this is the visual, not the art part. All right, so we're performing a piece on recorder. These were my 3rd graders, so I chose some of these. It gives you options. You don't have to do all 3. You can choose the one that you want to do. So you can have them selecting a piece from the first 4 pieces of recorded karate or whatever you're using, and then, you know, why should we choose that to do for our content? This one is where the teacher chose them, but then we're gonna help them, how are we going to learn this piece? So they had to do the analyzing of it. What's new in the piece, what do we know already? And this one, time to rehearse and evaluate with a small group, so they have peer feedback, kind of like a peer share, but with performing. So I did it with recorders. All those options, you can follow the arrows and decide what works for you. Oh, there's 4 strategies. Okay, just to go over it. They give you options for songs. Okay, so if you were gonna sing it, I chose my recorded karate song because that's what I was doing. But then, there were already made up materials. So, if it was 5th grade, you know, they might be choosing. What's the performance? Well, it's for the national anthem because it's the birth date of the writing of the national anthem. Okay, so why do we choose that? Because it's also a patriotic song, or whatever. So you could guide them through that, or if it's 5th grade, maybe they could do it with a small group. They give you a rubric for everything they give you. So if your administrator needs that, you've got it, just print it out. It explains, here's the assessment strategy, here's the worksheet. So there's so much just here. You don't have to remake it.
And you know, if you have a principal that insists that you have a writing piece embedded into your music class, there it is.
Grab one of
And
them.
it's about writing about music.
Yeah, you don't have to do them all.
It's not making music, but they'll make music when they play or say.
That's right. That's right. This was one of my favorites, although it was hard for them. It was stretching for them, challenging. They had a little group of their friends, and they sat down to play their Mary Had a Little Lamb, because this was only like between November and January somewhere, we were working on this. So they sat together, and, you know, the first one plays, and their comments, you know, listener one wrote, you know, the beginning was good, but you don't know the second line, or, you know, and how, they had to get used to what words am I using, what vocabulary am I using? So that was a good practice for them, and they were, for the most part, pretty nice with each other, you know, get a comment in a polite, constructive way, but I loved, they're working on tasks together, listening to each other, that was great, I took pictures of that, and I thought it was very exciting, independent musicianship work, so. I like that one. Anybody want to share another benchmark that they've done?
I'm working on grade 2 performance. And this week I kind of felt a little stumbling block when I had them do self-assessment, and I've actually rethought that. I love the self-assessment sheet that's in there for the kids, but some of my kids struggled with that. I think it was just too many things for them to listen to, and the example that they're listening to is quite short. You know, they're listening to a recording of themselves, but it's really, you know, 30 seconds long. So I kind of simplified it.
Not the sheet for them, because like, look
Yeah,
at
if you
this,
pull it
this looks
further up.
very accessible, right, for grade
Yep.
2, this is great. Well, and that's the kind of feedback, sometimes they're looking for that, oh, is this,
Keep going.
this is when they
One
perform,
more.
okay,
The one that has the smiley faces on
Okay.
it, self-assessment.
okay.
And I love that, and I'm like, oh, the kids will, you know, do well, and some of them did, but others, it was, I don't know, they need more experience. In the future, they may do well with it, but this year I decided to go to just a 4-3-2-1. We talked about what would be a person that would be a role model, what would their voice be like, and a 1 is somebody that didn't use their singing voice. And what's a 3 and what's a 2, and then the whole class could just use their hand. It was a 4. Well, why did you think it was a 2, Scarlett? You know, and the kids, they need more experience with it. I didn't think they were quite ready for this, but in the future, I hope they will be.
But the process was still good, you just
Tweaked
and teaching the
tweaked it.
routine, if this is what you're going to use twice a year or once every trimester, once you go through it as a group, maybe the second time, half group, half on your own, and the third time they'd be ready to just use that tool.
On their own,
Yeah.
right?
I agree. When it first came out, I piloted the grade 2, and it was so way above what grade 2's vocabulary and writing. But like Scott Schuler said, these are a great guide for us, and we can take pieces of what we like and at least know what to shoot for with our students. So they're just as
Take
much-
that worksheet and then just plug in your 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and when I looked at this, if you look at it even in more detail, a lot of times I'm taking a sample where they're echoing my model. They're gonna keep a steady beat and my rhythm is gonna be correct. It's whether, did they start on the right pitch? Did they know the song? Could they sing the pitches accurately? And did they use a singing voice? And all of my second graders seem to understand those 3 components. So I
That's the
kinda
3 you
simplified
We're
it.
targeting. So-
Right, but I love this. It's nice that this is done. You know, it's done for you.
It's a good beginning place to look up for ideas or to start with or take pieces of. Yeah.
Yeah, these documents also make a really great framework for your SLO as well, and a lot of it is kind of done for you, and then you can modify where you want, but if you need something, it's all there.
The awesome thing, I think, about it is we're moving away from the notes as the be-all and end-all. The notes are the tools to create music, rather than you need to learn this note, you need to learn the name of it, you need to learn you know, it's a move toward the true process of creating. I mean, Irving Berlin didn't read music. I mean, it's a move toward a musical way of being rather than a musical technician, you know, and I think it's awesome.
It's a nice skill to have when you can read the notes. However, if you're struggling with that, there's so much other technology that you can just create without fully being super duper with the notes or maybe even the chords. There's so much technology coming, so, yeah.
We have so little
It's part
time
of,
to teach music.
But to spend all 30 minutes just on that,
Mhm.
yeah,
It's
doesn't
a,
really
it's
do
a move away from
service
that.
to help them become independent creators, thinkers. Anybody else have anything they want to share about the standards that could or help on any particular thing? I hope this makes, we'll see what happens Wednesday. If it's adopted, number one, and then how slowly over time, when it's time for curriculum writing, redeveloping, or updating, you know, how it works. But I think it's a great resource, a great tool, and I think it's in the right direction once you get digesting it.
It's interesting that, you know, Steve and Ben have been working a lot on curriculum, and
They're gonna do
people
our
need to
next
share,
workshop.
you know, people do need to
preview.
share with one another, because why reinvent the wheel if somebody's already doing the hard work to at least get you started? So I know, was it Charahoe that you said? I mean, there are a couple districts that have already gotten going on it.
So Lincoln,
Yeah.
you need to
Charahoe?
put up Charahoe,
Yeah.
and Ben teaches in Westerly. Steve teaches in Westerly. Stephen. Right. Anyways, put it out there on the list. Hey, we're about ready to.
Woonsocket Elementary has just done their curriculum based on Dr. Gordon's theory. So there's another one out there too.
Yeah, we're small.
Spearheaded by Denise.
Accessible.
Denise,
Spearheaded by
Dr.
that
Gilbo was our
accessibility.
resource. She was the one that guided us through the whole process.
Nice.
So she's a good contact to work with.
Great, yeah, reach out, cause we are, and we've got plenty of ways to connect. Wayne's wonderful if you put something out and don't know how he can, the best way is we'll put it on a forum, or we'll put it, you know, he'll get it out to the members so you can get your information. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Keep doing what you do.